Excuse me. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council and City of Pontiac residents. I'm actually going to speak to the appropriations grants that we submitted last week. We actually submitted 5 programs totaling $21 million for the City of Pontiac. And those projects were for to renovate the eWalt Center here in the City of Pontiac, renovate City Hall, upgrades to make it more ADA compliant, spacing as a result of COVID-19, the pandemic, and just to be more efficient and also to address, the repairs that's needed. The other project that we proposed is the Phoenix Center Amphitheater renovations and transportation for youth, seniors, and disabled people to and from the senior center centers, and also from different designated pickup and drop-off spaces. And then our 5th project was street repair and construction for $8 million. So those 5 projects total $21 million for the City of Pontiac, should they be awarded. And this is through Representative Brenda Lawrence's office, that they provide appropriation and community projects. Are there any questions?
No questions and answers. We will just do presentations as I stated, okay? So we do have—
Now, Darren and Matt.
let me proceed with, I do see the representative, governmental liaison from our Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence's office, who is here. As we talk about appropriations, the appropriations are to our representative of this area, who is on the Appropriations Committee, helpfully enough. So they were delivered on time, and James Johnson is here and may want to make a statement regarding the appropriations before we go on with the other reports. Mr. Johnson, you have the floor if you would care to make a statement.
Yes, just to say that the appropriations process is something that's been in place for quite a long time here. So just for clarity's sake here, the appropriations process is not something that is supplemental to the American Rescue's plan. That is a plan that was initial. It's a one-time payment. The appropriations funding has always been there and has always been an option to all municipalities and all cities, obviously. Again, with the American Rescue's plan, as mentioned earlier, I would just want it to be clear that the allotments have not been dedicated yet. They have not been sealed or official numbers that have been recognized. So while that is a one-time payment to the city, that is a first time in the history of our country, actually. Appropriations are and have been there for the entire time. And as you stated, Congresswoman Lawrence is a member of the Appropriations Committee, so of course she is going to be working diligently to get all of our municipalities in the 14th district as much as possible. We have a couple of community funding projects that are in place with some of our nonprofits in the city. And of course, I just always want to make it clear that our office is here to help and to serve whenever possible.
Thank you so much. And I always am so pleased that Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence is our Congresswoman of the mighty 14th District, that you have ably represented us and carried our messaging and our needs of this city so well. She is a champion in terms of the values that we hold that make our city strong and great. And she has always been there to represent us well. So do take that message back to her. I know she's fighting for us. You're right, there is no direct correlation between the appropriations that she has opened up the application process, and Pontiac has submitted these 5 applications, and the American Rescue Plan. But we are just knowing that she's also championing the fact that our allotment under the American Rescue Plan, as we have previously reported here, was devastatingly low. Pontiac, according to that formula, only would receive $5.8 million, whereas some similar sized cities with similar needs, such as Saginaw, receiving 25 to 30 million. That is a huge difference in travesty. Our congresswomen recognize that, as well as our federal senators, and they're all working to see what is the arrangement we can make to lessen that difference. So, and there are some lobbying going on. In fact, those are things that we'll report later as we have more information. But to continue this particular presentation, we next have Matt Gibb to talk about the American Rescue Plan and what we're doing for that decidedly low allotment that is slated, as you say, Mr. Johnson, that is not carved in stone yet, but we're certainly working in all the gears to see if we can't rectify that. Mr. Gibb?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You hit on the most significant part of it, which is the disparity that is caused by the way the formula had been put together. One of the things that is, in addition to that very important argument and effort, Mayor, is the fact that the city is pursuing bringing back in-house the federal grant process. One of the reasons that we have a different formula, some people may be saying, well, how could this happen? And I know our excellent finance director is going to talk a little bit about the numbers and his purview of this in a second. But part of the reason is because the city several years ago under the emergency manager, another negative effect of that process, what we gave control over our community development block grant and other federal grant monies to Oakland County. Lynette Phillips, our good director of economic development, secured a grant from the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan, and we are rapidly pursuing bringing that in-house. So Mayor, that's really, really good news, and we'll bring that back later. What was on the council agenda tonight that I was involved with is the effort to represent the city in a real adequate way. Mr. Johnson from the representative's office is an excellent partner to us, as our representatives from Senator Peters' office and Senator Stabenow and others. But we were really pursuing a more aggressive approach with this so that the city could use part of its very well-established fund balance. The mayor has done a phenomenal job over 6 years of rebuilding what was an extremely depleted fund balance, meaning how much extra money do we have within our budget within the city, and to ask the council if we would be permitted to spend up to $50,000 of that excellent fund balance to retain an expert that would assist not only our staff and the mayor, but that would assist the city in that process in Washington, D.C. on a short level, so that we could maximize our ability to really rectify the disparity that's happened between us and other cities. To think that Flint is going to get $99 million and Pontiac to get $5.8 million, as you said, Mayor, is just a travesty. And so to our residents in Pontiac, know that we're working hard in that regard. And like the mayor indicated, we are so grateful with all of the staff and other very more people that are much smarter than me, Mayor, like James Johnson and others that can really guide us in this process. But that's what we were hoping to present to council tonight, and we'll continue to push forward with that concept to try to rectify these numbers, Mayor.
Very, very good. And lastly, for this presentation, Mr. Carrington, if you can, I know you gave the presentation before, but just remind people of the numbers and the disparity, if you could do that pretty quickly here. Thank
Sure. As was alluded to, under the current formula, we here at the City of Pontiac, and on behalf of the residents and people in the community, we're scheduled to receive $5.8 million. And again, that's under the current proposed formula. When you look at some, kind of peer communities, if you will, you see a pretty significant disparity. You can look at the City of Royal Oak. They're slated to get almost $30 million. City of Taylor slated to get close to $12 million. And the City of Dearborn Heights is slated to get almost $26 million. So you can see a pretty significant disparity. And as been alluded to by some of the prior presenters, it kind of boils down to the formula that's currently being contemplated under the Rescue Act. And one of the things that we're kind of looking at and trying to promote is, the fact that because of City of Pontiac being a subrecipient and the CDBG funds being done at the county level, we're deemed to be a non-metropolitan community. And we get our funds based on that funding formula. We'd be getting our funds on a per capita basis, which is significantly less. And if we would be deemed a metropolitan city, which we otherwise would qualify as, we would be able to have our allocation based on the CDBG formula, and would result in a much higher level of funding. So we're, as everyone has alluded to, we're working on all fronts. One of the things I know that has happened recently is that there's been a request from a number of on behalf of a number of cities from Michigan Municipal League to provide for a one-time kind of exemption where we would acquire that metropolitan status for purposes of the funding, which would immediately give us the opportunity to get the benefit of the formula under the CDBG and really result in a allocation that's much more reflective of what we deserve. So we're going to continue moving forward and pressing our case on all fronts.
Thank you, Mr. Carrington. And for the information of the viewing public, I have signed a letter to add Pontiac's name to the National League of Cities letter that is going directly to the U.S. Secretary of the Treasurer, Janet Yellen, to have Pontiac get that exemption also to be included as a one-time metropolitan city in order to hopefully increase our allotment under the American Rescue Plan. So all those things are ongoing right now as we speak. We're continuing to keep a close eye on those items, and we thank you, Mr. Johnson, and the Congresswoman and everybody in the office for helping to champion that situation and that travesty to Pontiac for us, as well as we hope you look kindly in our appropriations requests too. Okay, thank you for that. Give our thanks to the Congresswoman. And something else I know that the Congresswoman does champion, and that is the onslaught in so many legislators across the states against voting rights, to turn back and to offer legislation that suppresses that. Likewise, there has been some in the Michigan legislature that has been proposed, and there is a rally that I will be at next Tuesday that people are invited to, 12 o'clock, on the states of the Capitol to protest the proposed legislation, which is really an attempt to turn back voting rights for Americans of various demographics. So I know the Congresswoman has championed that. I've heard her speak so forcefully on that a number of occasions. And I know she'd be with us on the state Capitol steps next Tuesday if she were here and not in Washington, D.C. But do give her our thanks and our regards. All right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for coming.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And again, absolutely to your point, the Congresswoman, of course, is a champion of voters' rights, and she's always telling us that we stand on the shoulders of giants that have fought and championed for our voting rights. So that will definitely be something that we are fully supportive of always. And just to speak one more time here, just to make sure that people are clear, appropriations are an ongoing process. This is funding that can be administered year after year after year after year. The American Rescues Act is a one-time payment. And just so there's clarity on that, as far as being good stewards of monies and things of that nature, that lobbying would be for one time. And to Mr. Carrington's point, Mr. Gibb, I know at a time when you were with Oakland County, you actually administered the CDBG, so you understand that the formula is, frankly, it's detrimental the way it's going to work right now. However, that is a administrative function that can be brought back in-house and should be considered strongly, as you guys have mentioned before. And that way you can have that funds up. And again, I know there is talk with the Secretary of the Treasury and within the federal government about a one-time exemption. But we do not know if something like this will ever happen again. So as far as something like this, as far as funding being brought directly to municipalities. So again, in order for that formula to change, I would recommend considering some other options as far as how the city chooses to administer its funds. Again, we will continue to fight to get every dime brought down from the federal government to the city of Pontiac. The administration of that fund, however, is up to the people of Pontiac, not us. So again, thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it. And again, we are your advocates, and I am here for you. My office is here for you. And of course, Congresswoman Lawrence is here for you. Thank you all.
Thank you again. Appreciate that. I also would like to express my appreciation to our state, our federal senators, both Senator Stabenow and both Senator Gary Peters, both of whose offices are in touch with this travesty because of the allotment for American Rescue Plan, and to the extent that they are aware of that and exerting what influence they can bear to help that, we are in touch with their offices as well. And with that, I see our other presenters here for